Hey guys, this is Julius. Welcome to the third installment of my podcast series. It's the second installment of my Julius Talks Hardware. So, today we're going to be talking about graphics cards. I already did a slight overview in my previous video, so I'd suggest going back and watching that if you're unaware of what a graphics card is, but I will explain in short that a graphics card is, what creates the image in your computer. It takes data, it turns it into a static image, and then it plays them on your monitor in succession to show what looks like a moving image to your eye. So, your graphics card is important for gaming, not quite as important for streaming, but don't get me wrong, it's still a very important component for anything you're doing. So, first of all, on the lower end, you're going to be looking at a 4 gigabyte graphics card, something that has 4 gigabytes of VRAM. And what that means is that it can hold 4 gigabytes worth of like textures and files and data for whatever game you're playing. And so that's fine for like lower settings at 1080p. Then in your kind of mid-range, you're going to be looking at 6 to 8 gigabytes. And that's fine for 1080p higher settings and even 1440p higher settings in the case of an 8 gigabyte card. A 10 gigabyte card is fine for any 1440p game, and over 10 is good for 1440p and 4K. So, first of all, you have to make sure that you can't just buy any 4 gigabyte or 6 gigabyte or 8 gigabyte or even 10 gigabyte graphics card. Just because it has that much video RAM on it does not mean that it's a powerful card. So, look at an RTX 3070. It's got 8 gigabytes of VRAM, but it's significantly more powerful than the next generation of consoles. So in that case, it probably doesn't have enough VRAM to utilize the full power of the card. And then look at like an 8 gigabyte RX 570. It doesn't have enough power to fully utilize that 8 gigabytes of VRAM. So you got to find a card that has that kind of balance. Like a 4 gigabyte 1650 Super, $186, 4 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory, and it's got the NVENC encoding software, so it makes it good for streaming. All of the 16 and 20 and 30 series NVIDIA cards have NVENC, and that is something where if you're going to be streaming, I would suggest going with an NVIDIA card, unless you have a nice processor that can handle that increased load of streaming and recording video. So there's that. Then you're looking at power efficiency in a graphics card. NVIDIA cards tend to be less efficient. They tend to be a little less powerful. They're more plug and play. They have better features. So AMD is a little less trustworthy, I would say. Their firmware updates can sometimes hurt the performance of a card. Or sometimes 5 years later, they can randomly unlock 10% better performance on a card. You never know. So, if you're looking for something for streaming and gaming that is going to be all around a good card, NVIDIA is probably your best bet. If you're looking for gaming and you're okay spending a little less, saving some power, but you're just a little less trustworthy, AMD could be your best bet. So, that 4 gigabyte card is your minimum for streaming and gaming. That's like your 150 FPS at 1080p in Valorant. Then your next step up is your 6 gigabyte card. That's your 5500 XT, 1660 Ti. Those are 1660 Super perhaps. That's kind of your mid entry level, and those can be found for cheap, new, or used on any site really. I would not recommend buying any of the cards I'm going to talk about today new unless it's a next-gen card, that being a Radeon 6000 or RTX 3000 card. Those are very hard to find new, but if you can find them new, buy them. They are very good cards, but at a lower price point, you're going to be looking at a used 10 or 20 series graphics card. So you're going to be looking at a 1060, a 1070, a 1660 Ti, 1650, or a 55 or 5600 XT. That's kind of your more entry to lower mid-range cards. Those are not going to come close to next-gen consoles, but they're still going to be very solid graphics cards for whatever you're doing on them. And they're not a terrible price, so you're not going to feel too bad upgrading in a year or two. Then your next step up is your kind of 20 series graphics cards, your 2060 Super, 2070 Super, even 2080. The 2080 Super is probably in the next price bracket, really. And so then on the AMD side, you've got your 5700 XT. Those make up your what used to be the higher end card, but those are now kind of your upper mid range. And then you've got your new high end cards. You've got the last gen 2080 Super and 2080 Ti. Very powerful, very good cards that can be found for very reasonable prices used. They should never be bought new because they are no longer in production and they will be upcharged on any site, especially something like Amazon. So, if you're going to buy one of those cards, buy them new. Or, no, sorry, I misspoke. Buy them used and make sure that you're not spending more than $500 on a 2080 Super, and do not spend more than $600 on a 2080 Ti. Then you've got your RTX 3000 and Radeon 6000. The Radeon 6000 launch hasn't happened yet. I'm going to try and get my hands on one, though. The 3000 series is already launched, and I think I know of a place where to get them in the Milwaukee area. So if you're looking for that, you can reach out to me via my email, and I can share where that is, but I just don't want to give out the source and have them all disappear. But essentially, your Radeon 6000, I do not know what the stock of those is going to look like. They come out on the 18th, and it's going to be okay. You're going to be able to find one of them if you are really trying. But they're going to be expensive. $500 for their lowest end one, and almost $1,000 for their higher end one. Then on the RTX 3000 side, those are almost impossible to find anywhere. Anywhere you look, you are going to have a very, very hard time finding an RTX 3000 graphics card. But when they are more readily available and some of those lower end models come out, those are what I would suggest going with for your entry level. The new entry level will be your RX 6600 XT or something, and then your 3060. So those are going to be your new entry level. Those are going to be $300 to $400. So when those exist, I suggest buying those. But in this current market, a older generation used card is good for your kind of $150 to $300 range. Then a last generation higher end card is good for your $300 to $500, even $600 if you're willing to spend that. Then your kind of $500 to $1,500 range, which is a huge range of high end cards. That is going to be the next generation, and that is going to be hard to find. So let's summarize. Your low end cards are looking at a 16 or lower end 20 series card. You can go with a 10 series card too, and those are still relevant and still solid cards. Just don't overpay for these cards. I cannot stress that enough. Try and find a reasonable price online. You can search that up. Then for your mid-range, you're going to be looking at the kind of higher end last generation cards, for again, used. And then for your higher end, you're going to be looking at some sort of stopgap card until you can find one of those RTX 3000 or Radeon 6000 graphics cards. So, thank you for listening, and I hope I can help you find a graphics card that will fit your needs. And I think a graphics card is very important, and finding the right graphics card for you is going to be an important part of building and using your computer. So, thank you for listening, and come back for more installments in the next several days. Goodbye.